I had the joy of a 3.5 hour travel delay on my layover from staffing issues. Did you have any problems on your travel home?
Other than the fact that I scheduled a flight that arrived in Nashville at around midnight, and unfortunately Knoxville is about 2.5 hours away. So it was my
Ah,
problems were of my own design, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
but no, I'm here definitely a little bleary eyed. At the same time, it's always kind of exciting, right? You go to these conferences, you see old friends, you hear what's coming, you start thinking about the future. So it's kind of a blend of exhaustion and excitement, as far as what I think about what's coming out of the industry conference. So what did you think about it, man? I mean, where was your head? What was on your mind when you left the conference?
So the biggest thing on my mind when I left the conference is, yeah, but are they going to? And I say that because I am an optimist. If you've followed me on social media at all over the last decade, you know that I usually try to find the solution more so than I gripe about the problem.
Yep.
We got to highlight the problem, but like, how do we solve it? And I like to believe that people are good, and I also like to believe that people can improve. Um, and it's funny because one of the things I was thinking about was how this conference compared to last year and what was different about it. Because I did get to go last year also. Aside from being outdoors in a cold February in Arizona versus last year being indoors,
Right.
um, last year was a lot of like, what's going to happen. That was the big question that I think everybody from hobby shops to breakers to consumers, even media had. What's going to happen? This big news that just hit the hobby. What's going to happen? And now we've sort of seen a status quo for probably half a year or so, where it's like, okay, Fanatics is putting these pieces in place. We're seeing that. So now the question is how. How do we get this stated goal of 10xing the hobby? How do we get this new system of product getting from manufacturer through whatever outlet to consumer, and how do we make sure that consumers get all ends of their spectrum too, which is everything from set collecting to modern cards hitting $1 million plus at auction. How do we get all of that? So I felt like the Fanatics crew and the Tops crew brought some really good answers. And so that's why the final thing that I was leaving with is like, but will they? Will we see it this year? Will we see those things? Because I believed a lot of what they said. And I think a lot of what they said could be good.
Right.
But then we
Well,
constantly get hit with things like missing SSPs that were advertised in the product. And, like, we're not going to do that this year. And then they do it this year. We're not going to do Project 2022. We're not going to do Project 2020 again, but we did Project 70 and then Project 100. Like,
right.
like, so I really just want to see if they do what they said.
The old analogy of you're repairing the plane while it's flying. I feel like that is Tops and Fanatics, except what I would describe it as, I would say it's actually the jet, right? This was not a bit. This was a business that was bought, my opinion, that was incredibly fast and incredibly sexy, and right under the hood there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed. And I think for us in the hobby, whether you're a shop owner like me or a passionate hobby influencer like you, is that we all want to see what's coming, right? And in our mind,
Mm-hmm.
you want it as soon as possible. But in reality, it is a jet that you're fixing, and it's a high-powered jet, and it's a jet that you're about to make go 10 times as fast, if you can do it, as it was previously
Yeah.
going. And I noticed Santiago from Santiago Sports, he had posted something on Instagram today, so I want to give him credit for it. Um, it takes time. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I think I remind myself of. I'm like, I expect people that come in our shop. Our shop's been open 2 years. It's not perfect, right? And I think about their deal and what they're trying to move. It is a very big jet that's moving very fast, has a lot of passengers, and they've got to make it better without wrecking it, without throwing the passengers around, without anything falling out the back, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
That was my takeaway. So, but
it reminds me of like one of the questions was something about like, okay, you're talking about you're investing more in quality control and customer service. Why are we still seeing mistakes? Why is there still a backlog?
yeah,
And or actually no, it was that was kind of wrapped up in also like checklists,
right,
pre-release information. When are we going to get more of that? And the response from the TOPS executive, I think it was David Leaner, the president, who responded to this one, or Kevin O'Neill. Sorry, guys, I interchanged you on this. And it was a long day with a lot of stuff going on. But it was, oh, we're actually building a team now to handle that.
right.
And then I posted that on Twitter, and some people were like, oh, what a non-answer. And I'm like, no, wait, that is exactly an answer, because
It is an
before you
answer.
mentioned the jet flying, you've
Yeah,
got brand managers that are trying to manage the brand and do the release strategy and do the release details and do the store packets and the things for Beckett. And it's like, no, if you actually had a team that was handling that and driving the brand managers with their deadlines, but handling the outside things, the information, um, then like it could flow better, could flow a
yeah,
lot
right,
better.
right.
Um, so there was a lot of things like that maybe on the surface, and maybe again, maybe it's my fault, maybe I misparaphrased some of their responses, but a lot of things that I felt like they were saying, even as the jet is speeding along, they're retooling a lot of pieces of it, and some of them were really exciting to me, and some of them again, like get me really hyped. Others were revelatory though. Like, I'm a big soccer guy, and not only myself, but a soccer collectors group I'm in on Facebook. Like, I asked them, hey, what would you want to tell the brand manager? Got all this feedback, and they have an MLS licensor there, the guy
Mhm.
from
Yep.
MLS that
Yes.
handles it, and then they've got the brand manager. Well, I start talking to the guy that handles it for MLS, and he's nodding. He's like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, I've only been here a few weeks in this role,
Right.
so this is good. So I had to even shift my whole tack to like, oh, okay, well, just so you know, I don't know if they educate you on history, but like historically, this is what the brands have been like. And historically, this is what's bothered collectors. So if you can find a strategy to move that, but that's a much different thing than somebody that's been doing it for 3 years. And that's not on the top side alone, where there was also a brand manager change recently. That's on the MLS side. So another big challenge a lot of times is, entertainment cards. You've got not just what Topps wants to accomplish or Zero Cool, you've got what Disney wants for their brand. You've got what, Warner Brothers wants for their brand or doesn't want, or what the lead actor doesn't want. And a lot of that comes out, which is one reason why I'd encourage any collector that likes diving into the business side of the hobby and the logistics side and understanding what you go through, Scott, running a store, trying to get product from there to here and make it of value on both sides. I really encourage you. I mean, if they do this event public again, tickets were available on tops.com for like 3 months. They went up in
Yeah.
November and they were there till late January. Anybody could have attended the event, and it was a lot of fun. And I'd encourage you to if you're interested in this type of stuff.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. It's well, you know, it's funny. The first conference I went to a few years ago, and I still feel this way. I'm actually amazed by what they at that time were getting done with the people they had. And you can really tell how they've staffed up, right? Like lots of new
Mm-hmm.
headcount. You've got a group, you know, solely focused, of course, on live commerce now, and you've got, you know, new marketers coming in. You've got they announced a new CMO while we were there. I mean, it's a it takes time. I continue to be bullish, and what I'm actually when I look at where the hobby is, if you had told me, hey, where the economy would be right now and where the hobby is coming off of the peak we were in, I would say, man, this looks really good. I mean, I look at our shop. I mean, and our shop is not a big enough sample size to say how healthy the hobby is, but I put the data we have at our shop with the data that was shared at the conference. And I think we're in a really good place. I mean, Mike Mahan said it himself. 10x is an ambitious goal. It's a stretch goal, right? But I don't think it's hard to see this hobby grow 3x, which frankly would be amazing growth, right? I mean, we live in a world where
Yeah.
there's a lot of sports fans. I mean, a tremendous amount of sports fans that don't collect cards or memorabilia. And I believe Fanatics is going to help introduce more people, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to all be one pathway. The discovery journey, I don't think, will look like, oh, it's buying flagship, or oh, it's buying soccer, or oh, it's buying football when the license comes over. It's going to be multiple pathways in. But man, that door, that once Fanatics bought Tops, that door went from being this big to, I doesn't fit on the screen, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I think, so we'll actually next year might be even more interesting, because I think you'll see more firm plans. We saw, my opinion, I don't know if you agree or disagree, I want to hear from you, is that we saw nuggets. We saw reasons to be super excited, super happy, right? Everything from one of my favorite slides, and this is, coming from the world of consumer packaged goods, is that we heard about portfolio management. They're turning off franchises before they're dead to allow for the right amount of releases across key sports that drive the hobby. So, I'm going to miss Tops Fire next year because I love Tops Fire, but Tops Fire will probably be better, and whatever they put in its place. And just the fact that they're thinking about the portfolio of products across all the sports, and they've got the marketing muscle they do. You're going to have live commerce as, I think, an incredible way for consumers to discover products, brands, sports to collect. The future's bright, but I'm like you. Unfortunately, our viewers are hearing from two optimists. So,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah,
see.
please, in the comments, rip us apart, tell us how
Yeah.
wrong we are, and 6 months from now we'll come back, because like I said, my biggest question is, but will they this time? Because I keep believing them, and they've hurt me a lot in the past, but I keep believing them. But like you said, there is a lot of what feels new, what feels fresh. And so that's what I'm still clinging to. I'm not going to go out and tell anybody, invest. I never have. I've never said invest in cards.
Right.
But I like being in this. Let's put it that way. For me, I like being in this. I like this idea of growing the hobby. I've always wanted just more people in the hobby. It's a fun hobby, and it's more fun the more people there are to talk to.
Right.
The more people know more about something than I do that I can learn from, the better. I think it's part of why I like emerging sports like soccer, because I actually spend more time learning than I do trying to be smart in soccer. Playing fantasy football for 15 years, I was in football, I try to be better than other people. And it's that's actually not fun in the hobby.
Right.
Especially because I'm not, the guys that I prospect all end up being busts. I'd rather follow and listen to other people. So I love the idea of growing the hobby, and people that are passionate sports fans that have never collected, finding out about it and finding passion in it and finding fun in it. It's just a matter of, do they follow through? And I think the most interesting piece of that, and this is something, I've heard Jeff Wilson say quite a few times, sports card investor, big YouTube channel, and has a big community, is Fanatics, regardless of this or this or this or this, right? Fanatics as a business made an investment and they have a pretty good track record of investments. They have a pretty good track record of executing those investments. So they've also got a pretty strong infrastructure. So if I'm going to gamble on something, I'm going to gamble on Fanatics being successful more than I'm going to gamble on them failing.
Oh, no doubt.
So
yeah. Well, I'm curious. So at the conference, you were around talking to a lot of people. That's what you do. And I'm just kind of curious, from your perspective, what did you hear? What's the spirit of the shop owners, the breakers that you heard? So we heard what you think, but I'm really curious, what was the vibe you picked up from? Because I will tell you, I heard a lot of different opinions, but if you were to say the general sentiment of the average shop owner, the average breaker, where is their head coming out of the conference? and looking ahead as we've got a full season of baseball releases, a lot of great stuff in soccer coming, and then of course the pending transition of the licensing over the next couple of years.
So that's a great question, and my answer is maybe a little counter to what I just said. Where I think a lot of their heads are is scared, and probably because they have a lot more writing on this than I do. And if Fanatics doesn't do what they say they're trying to do, if they don't, let's cut the difference and say 5x the hobby in the next 2, maybe 3 years. Well, the other side of what Fanatics is doing to get there, which I'm hearing is, cutting margins in a lot of ways, having more control over bits and pieces of the process that, especially from retail shops, I'm hearing that it's a lot tougher. Means that if the marketing side that we're being sold or being told doesn't happen and doesn't execute the way that it should, then those shop owners will be in trouble. So I feel like the shop owners are in probably more of a scared and fearful place than I may be as a casual collector who talks about this, and who does, like I work in the category, but our website and our marketplace supports all tiers. It supports everything from the breakers all the way down to the person who's, trying to sell their singles. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's a little easier not to be scared, and I can see exactly where they are a little bit more hesitant because they're reliant on one thing. And you never want to be reliant on just one thing. Even if you're in social media, like if your entire business model is Twitter and then the algorithm changes, you can lose everything. If your entire business model is Instagram and all of a sudden they ban links, you can lose everything.
Right.
Well, it's the same. If you're moving more and more eggs into one basket, and that basket is, from everything that I've heard, shrinking the margins, even if they're giving you a little bit more confidence in what you're going to be getting and you can plan a little better, you really need them to deliver. So I hope if they're watching this, that they take that to heart and say, oh yeah, we really need to deliver on that marketing side and on expanding the categories. Because that's what this does hinge on.
It does. I mean, as a shop owner, we are making a lower margin on most of the Topps franchise than we did a year ago, 2 years ago, whether it's direct or distributor. You're definitely, as you bet on at least the current model, and I think the model is going to continue to evolve. I mean, when you talk about dynamic pricing at its essence is committing to an evolving strategy, right? It's we're going to let supply and demand and the nature of this market drive their pricing, but it does. The current model would suggest that you have to have that 2x to 3x to get back to where you were on previous Topps margin. And I think that I did hear there are hobby shops that are concerned, right? There are hobby shops that are thinking about, okay, if Panini, if Panini does get acquired or doesn't get acquired, what does that mean? And do those margins change as well? And so I get it. I will tell you though, and this is something I observed. I don't know if you observed it as well. The confidence was there too. I do believe it's your shop owners that have ridden the absolute valley and been in the valley of this business. Those, in the 2000s and, the post Strasburg and all those moments that were really, really tough. I think they're naturally more hesitant than those of us. I mean, our shop is 4 years old, right? I mean, you're in a different spot because you don't have the trend line. And you also might feel like the buy-in that you had to make looks different than the buy-in they had to make. And I don't know. That was something I was trying to distill as I talked to people. Okay, you're seeing the hobby through this lens. You're seeing it through this lens. And which is the actual clearest lens as we think about what it looks like,
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the biggest challenges is, Fanatics does have to balance all of these different lenses.
Yeah.
Online distribution through other outlets like breakers and that, and direct distribution, through hobby channels and retail distribution to the mass consumer. And each of those endpoints also has a different type of consumer with different behaviors. And so it's not as easy. I hate sticking up for the big guy, but I'm also like an exact. As I've traveled and as I've been in business in many different facets, it blows my mind how big the world is. And I think that almost no matter who you are, you'll never fully grasp it. I'll never fully grasp it. But 6,600 retail outlets carrying cards is huge, whether it's 2011 or 2023.
Yeah.
The hobby for a long time. Before this boom, I was telling people the hobby is bigger than you think it is. When I get into these one-on-one conversations, Twitter user, Tom Jerry 977 comes at me and I'm like, look, I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I'm just trying to say this is a whole lot bigger than your local Target in, Beatrice, Nebraska, down the street from me and where I'm at. But that's all you see is that. So just try to understand how much bigger it is. And I really don't see companies making, $500 million bets without having some sort of data to back it up. The only question is, how does it shift that ecosystem? And, they set a very strong game about, we believe in hobby shops. Hobby shops are a lifeblood to the consumer that you just can't have any other way. I'd love to see them, really, really back that up over the next couple of years. And I'm being optimistic. I believe that they will, but it's a lot less risky for me to believe that than it might be for other people to have to believe it.
Yeah, no, I do too. And I think there's early indications. I mean, when you look at MVP buyback, that was a great investment in hobby shops.
Returning, by the way, for your viewers.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. So, I think you're right. And I think there's a lot of indications. And I just know as a direct account, we have seen that, right? We've observed it. We felt it. So I do believe there's going to be a really good effort. The business model might look different. But I can promise you, this hobby needs hobby shops. It really does. And that's not just because I own one, right? I really believe they need it. And I believe you've got collectors in upper leadership like Clay, David, Jeff Gordon, that I do believe intimately know that, right? And I think that we're going to hopefully see a really good symbiotic relationship. I just hope collectors can stay on for the ride and enjoy it. Well, so we've really touched on two things I really wanted to hear from you. Is what are you optimistic about? What made you nervous? And I think we've talked about both those. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious. What is the thing you're most excited about? There were, some nuggets that were teased. A lot of those have already hit social media today and even, yesterday afternoon. But like, other than Tom Brady being in a Bowman draft product, what else are you excited about? And do you think it's going to be really cool that collectors are going to want to, learn more about?
Well, again, so I'm a bit of a different nerd where I don't it's not one kitschy collector thing or one kitschy product that excites me, even though I chase the kitschy ones all the time.
Yeah.
The news that excited me the most was, kind of two things. One is their approach to let's call them emerging sports. It's almost like emerging markets in the market. Whether it's Overtime Elite, which is massively popular, but is not massively collected.
Right.
So there's an interesting disconnect there that I personally I'd love to be part of solving that. I got really excited talking to the Overtime Elite guy about things that could be done to help solve that, because it's a very different world from the collector world, but yet it's massively, they spend a lot of money, the fans. And then Athletes Unlimited, the women's sports. I'm a season ticket holder to the Los Angeles Angel City Football Club, women's NWSL team. I still am, even though I moved out of the state. That's how much I love it. And then another piece of that, marketing investing in something emerging, is what they talked about with Little League Baseball and creating a very strong formalized program for Little League Baseball and the hobby to work together, including things like rewards at hobby shops like yours, where somebody makes the all-star team, they can come in and they get a second tier pack, or they make the playoffs in their World Series or in their Little League, they get a third tier pack. Like, again, though, we've heard in the past, oh yeah, we're going to partner with Little League, or we're going to do stuff for Little Leaguers. So it really comes down to execution on this. But if they can, that has me super excited.
No, I agree. We sponsor a travel baseball team here in our local market, and we have a ton of baseball kids, and actually just sport kids. There's just such a synergy between kids that are passionate about sports, and kids that are also wanting to collect. So it's a no. Yes. I think they will, right, and that's where I go back to the Fanatics relationship a little bit. Fanatics just brings a scale and a connectivity and ability to execute that Topps was never going to have. And whether it be connecting to apparel, connecting to personalities, connecting to culture, they simply have the ability to do it better. And you have to believe that we're going to see that, right? I mean, I went to the non-sports breakout group, and I think that non-sports, which has had its own journey over the years, I think has as good of a chance as growing sustainably as we've seen, and where you're going to see verticals that are really more than your gaming franchises that show gaming franchises in Star Wars that show longevity.
I've got these really cool cards right here. My Billy the Butcher Stranger Things packs came in, and I ripped a couple of them today.
Oh, nice.
Cool cards, cool parallels, cool art. Where's the camera on this?
Love
and
it.
then lenticular cards.
Yep.
It's not going to show up on the camera because it's lenticular. But yeah, and that's just the very tip of the iceberg of what the new Zero Cool team has planned. So that was one of those examples where you talk about like the jet is flying, and you got to fix it on the way, like while you're in flight. Well, they really have overhauled, and I'm going to challenge you, Scott.
Okay.
I got this from my good friend Rob Bertrand years ago. And I challenged them last year at Mint Collective, and we saw it on the slide this year. I was so excited. It's like, we've done it. Never define something by what it's not. These are entertainment cards.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not non-sport cards. They're entertainment
cards.
Yes,
you're right. That is fair. That is fair.
And they put that on the branding this year. It wasn't, okay, now we're going to have a non-sport panel. It was, we're going to have an entertainment panel. And they've got an actual team now dedicated to that, instead of, again, just like a brand manager who's also handling soccer and Star Wars at the same time, and just trying to get the products in the big box so that, base collectors can get them. They're trying to figure out strategy around that and events around it. Something else people may not have seen, again, just dropping some details here if you didn't see them already, like May the 4th, moving forward, they want to make that Sapphire Day. A new Sapphire Star Wars product every May the 4th.
Yes.
So that's one of those things where it's really exciting. It's exciting to hear and see, and it illustrates how it's not just like, we're going to make baseball huge. It's like, well, no, let's rise the collector, environment or community or culture, which I think is healthy. But let's have this conversation again in 6 months or in a year, Scott. I want to find out where you're at and where you think I'm at, a year from now.
No doubt. We're going to be here. So Underdog is not going anywhere. I will tell you, if you see the signs behind me, I can't without totally breaking down the break station, but we have our areas of the wax wall. We have entertainment. You just can't see it because it's
nice. Look at that.
It's over here. So
that man knows.
Yeah. So I just want you to know we don't call it non-sports at the store, but you're definitely right. Yes. No, it's pretty cool. No, I mean I think we heard a lot about new programs like May the 4th. I think we heard about negative cereals, which is a unique spin.
Say the word out loud.
I know.
Say the word out loud. People.
Yeah.
Frozen fractors.
You
can't hear it and not laugh.
No.
But it'll get attention.
Yeah, no, hey, I like it. All innovation isn't work. I think some of that innovation will work. I think a Tom Brady autograph card is going to be a huge deal.
Mhm.
I think Stranger Things is I mean, I don't think people appreciate what a huge part of our entertainment culture Stranger Things is. Of course, with Star Wars, and there were other properties announced that I think are going to be even bigger, right? And
Yeah.
so but across entertainment and sport as well. So it's pretty exciting. Um, so what's your big prediction? So let's think about 2 years out. We're talking a lot about the
2
next
years
12
out.
months, and we're also then talking about the big future. But 2 years from now, where do you think we're seeing everything working? Are we seeing customer service activated in a big way? Are we going to see scale activation that's bringing more people in the hobby within 2 years?
Again, I would like to,
Yeah,
but that's now I'm a little fearful just because of the past. Um, I'm a little fearful to say we will, but I really want to. I want to believe them. And there is one thing that I would challenge collectors, the same way I just challenged you with the entertainment thing, and you've already got it on the wall, and I love that, Scott. Um, there was an example last year that I use all the time because it's the perfect example. Customer service stinks. They never fix anything. It's getting worse. Well, there was a guy who hit an expired Otani redemption, and Tops told him they would still honor it, and then they didn't. And so he made a big fuss on social media, 200 plus retweets, everybody up in arms. And my understanding is Fanatics responded and they actually made it right. And I'm in Facebook groups and I'm in Twitter and I'm on Instagram. And I saw in this random Facebook group that the guy posted the make right in a random small Facebook group. And I'm like, you got all the visibility from Twitter on the negative thing, and you
right.
didn't post
Yes.
that they actually sent you the Otani numbered to 25 Bowman Chrome rookie or numbered to 5, whatever it was. Like, so just keep in mind, a lot of the fixes don't get the attention that the negatives do.
No.
And you're part of that discussion. The person listening is like, make sure that if you see good, you also boost it
We
because it
really
gets
do.
lost.
And yes, 100%, 100%. I will tell you, redemptions are coming faster, guys. I promise you. We do tons of redemptions. They're coming faster. We're
Mhm.
seeing the progress there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, lots of them, like, you don't feel nervous buying on the secondary market,
no,
Julio. And we even saw that, in 2014, like with Chris Bryant, he had a lot of redemptions and products, but his Bowman redemptions fulfilled 3 weeks after the product released. So pay attention to those things too. Like, yeah, it stinks getting a redemption, but if you're seeing that they're coming in, it's sometimes it really is logistics. And sometimes it's a difficult athlete. It's interesting to see how people are handling that now, but it's like, our knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh, that's bad, and they're just doing it again. Let's try to see if we can get away from that. But let's also see if customer service is better a year from now.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Anything else, man? Any other big takeaways? Anything you want to share? I really appreciate. And tell us about you. I should have done this at the very beginning. Tell us about you, your channel. I love to follow you on Twitter. About our shop, but I want to hear a little bit about you, so the underdogs kind of know what's going on with Ivan.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you sure? Because I want to know more about you. Actually, I want to come visit Knoxville after your presentation. What Scott won't tell you is that Scott gave a presentation at this event. He presented for about an hour, and it was one of the most informative and best from a use standpoint presentations. Like, they should have you come back and do the industry summit. Beckett, if anyone from Beckett's listening, this guy needs to speak there. It was on ways to market your shop better, and the actual tangible things you could do were great. I hope that all the listeners are like, yeah, that's why we go there, because it's fun. It creates a fun environment.
We're lucky. We've got great customers. It's not because of me. I'm only here at night, so I'm never here during the day. So no, it was that. No, it was really
Yeah.
cool to do that. I'm glad it was so cold. It was basically impossible for people to fall asleep. But no, it was really, it was kind of
Yeah.
surreal. As a guy that worked in a baseball card shop at 12 years old, It was kind of surreal just to be at the conference talking about sports cards in our sports store. And we're a small store compared to some of the big guys that are at the conference. But it was really cool. Appreciate your kind words. But yeah, it was definitely neat.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I could just feel the value, like, from people around me. Like, they were hanging on your every word with what you were saying. That said, where do I come from? Well, I collected as a kid. Then I moved to LA after graduating with a theater degree, and was doing Hollywood stuff and would pick up packs here and there. And then around 23, 24, we got a new apartment, and we actually had space in that apartment. I was like, oh, you know what? These packs I've accumulated over the last couple of years, I can actually organize them. And I started organizing them, and I was hooked. I was back into it. So then I ended up doing a little comedy web series about collecting, and that turned into, people just kind of knowing who I was. And so on Twitter, I just talk the hobby all the time. Got to co-host a podcast then for 7 years with GTS, Go GTS Live. And so through that's where I talk about, like, the perspective. And it's really interesting when I collect, I rip packs, I rip those Stranger Things packs today, but I also know some of the top distributors, and I've seen, some of the breakers that have gone from, one camera and one table to 20 employees, and the challenges and fears that they have, as well as the challenges and fears that the set builder has. And so I hope that, the people that follow me appreciate just that sort of perspective and voice, and trying to always be authentic to everybody. So if we ever disagree, usually it's just because I'm trying to see somebody else's perspective and what they might go through. That said, I love when people bring me new perspectives. And I've parlayed all that now into, I'm the sports card category lead for a website called ISO, which is a resale website where people can spin up their own marketplace, whether it's a breaker, whether it's a group. Like, we've got a marketplace that's dedicated to only Boston cards. So a bunch of Boston fans go there and put their Boston cards there, and other Boston fans come in and can search them. So that's really exciting. And again, gives me even more data and even more perspective on the breadth and width of this hobby. And so I love it. And I am really excited for the future. I just, on a personal level, I guess, since I'm getting a chance to say it versus tweet it, I just want that tone there of like, hey, everybody, like, I also want to see it happen. I'm not just taking blind faith. So thanks for giving me that little chance to introduce myself, Scott. Hey, Scott, you know what? I didn't get to hear from you or learn from you this week.
Yeah.
What do you collect?
So I'm a huge baseball guy. We break on the show 3 nights a week, and as everyone knows, baseball is by far my most enjoyable thing to break. But I am a big football collector, vintage basketball. But at the end of the day, if there's one thing I enjoy chasing, it's 1987 tops with autographs. And
what?
And so, and luckily
That's
for me,
challenge.
There's tons of stuff. So 87 tops has been retroed. Multiple times over the last 20 years.
Oh, so you still collect, like, you like when they retro it, you like that also with autographs?
87 tops, Hall of Famer autos, PSA DNA slab. I'll take them SGC too, or SGC group subs, but I do like the PSA DNA authentication. And then any of my players. I love baseball, and so any of the players I enjoy, I try to get every 87 tops auto. So lately, I've been chasing after the box toppers that were in 2022 tops. And there's box topper parallels that are numbered to 10 that are autographed. And so,
anybody listening, if you get one of those, you know where to send it.
I need the Shohei. I need the Shohei and the Trout. And so I have a little spending to do on those. But that's definitely a big autograph collector. But 87 tops. I cannot pass up 1971 Icy Bear basketball. Give me the Pete Maravich and a PSA 9 or 10 all day. The Wes Unseld with the awesome NBA era afro. The 71 Icy Bear set's pretty awesome. But no, I just love cards. I love the community. To me, It's a way. It's a way to connect with sports fans. And I have two boys. They're 11 and 13, and my oldest is a Pokemon collector. My youngest collects both Pokemon and sports. And it's the way I learned business. I have my MBA, but I definitely got my first MBA working in a card shop and understanding, how to turn a nickel into 15 cents and use that to collect what I enjoy. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I love it. Well, thanks for sharing, Scott.
Yeah, man. Hey, well, it has been great to hang out. I would encourage everyone to follow Ivan on Twitter. It's at The Breaks, right? So
watch
the breaks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Watch the break. We'll drop that in the chat, and please give him a follow. But man, thanks for what you do for the hobby. Was it the 18 National? Was it the 2018 National that you were on the stage? Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I want to say it was. So it was multiple years. It was all the way from 2016 or 17 through 2021.
Okay, I probably met you then on the stage in 18. That's when I believe I met you. You would not remember, but I remember.
Where was 18?
Is that Cleveland? I think.
Okay.
It's a blur, man.
I think the first one I was on the stage for was Atlantic City. So whether that was 16 or 17, that would have been the first one that we hosted. Yeah, and then we hosted the stage for a number of years. They actually, my former co-host is still hosting, Rob Bertrand. So yeah, look forward to seeing him in Chicago this summer. But
great. Yeah. Well, man, thanks a lot. We'll look forward to following your kind of opinions on the hobby, and it'll be interesting to see as we see the things that we saw at the industry summit. Our industry conference, as we see those unfold over the next few months. So it'll be really cool to watch.
We're going to be hanging on to the jet wings while they're repairing.
Let's hope. Let's hope so, right?
Yeah.
Great. Hey, enjoy it, Ivan. We'll talk soon, man. Take care. Have a great evening. Scott. Thanks for fitting us in.